There it is. For those of you who happen to be watching online, Mr. Dorinda is currently holding up a little elephant that is, he's got a name. Is it Bruno?
Bruce.
Bruce the elephant. If you've never been to Laravel, Australia before, you may not know who Bruce is. Bruce is the official mascot of Laravel, Australia, and Michael has recently commissioned an LED sign of said Bruce, as well as the upcoming theme of Laracon AU this year. So pretty freaking awesome. If you're not watching on online, you should check it out because it looks really, really darn cool. Michael, tell us a little bit about this thing.
Yeah, I had this when we started putting the branding together for this year. It was we landed on this notion of level up, and it came together in a really, I think, clever way, which maybe is a discussion for another podcast. But
okay, sure.
When I saw the final version of this level up logo, or this what do they call it? This lockup, because we've got a couple of different lockups for the level up logo, but this particular one, which is a square where Bruce actually jumps up the ladder of the level up, I thought that'd look really cool as a sign, and so I found a place on Etsy that manufactures these LED signs, and I just got the delivery yesterday, so I haven't quite figured out how to. If you're watching the video, you can see there's like a piece of paper on my wall here which is the template for where I need to put it on the wall, but I have no idea as yet how I'm going to mount it, how I'm going to wire it up, because each of the 15 pieces of the logo are individually wired with LEDs. So I've got to figure out how to kind of connect it all up and get it on the wall without damaging the sign, the wall, or burning my house down. So wish me luck. If you've had any experience in wiring these things up, reach out to me if you can help. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to look awesome.
It definitely seems
I'm confident.
It's going to look great. Like just seeing it, just the one piece there. Maybe I'll share it on Twitter. But,
absolutely. I said if there's anybody I know who can do it, it would be Michael Dorinda.
Michael
we'll
can
figure it out.
It definitely feels like a weekend project, though.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to take a little bit of time. Well, episode 241 is what we're on, folks. Thanks for joining us. July 14th, 2025 is the date. We've got some releases, some news, some packages, all sorts of good tutorials, and they're coming your way right now. Here we go. Episode 241 releases Laravel version 12.20. So the Laravel team released this with the ability to fail while throttling Q4, a context remember method, the ability to customize the collection pluck with a callback, and more. So let's start with that remember context. Ben Askew contributed context remember and remember hidden functions, which will add the results of the provided closure to the context if not already present, and always return the result. So before, what you'd have to do is you'd have to check to see if context, and context again is something we've talked about on the show for quite some time, but context is a Laravel class that you can now use that will maintain the context of the request. So you can say add this to the context. It will persist for the life cycle of that request. And so what you used to have to do is context has, and you check to see if a key existed, and then if it didn't, then you would have, let's dig in a bit here. If it did have that, then you'd have to retrieve it. Otherwise, you'd have to go set it and then return it, right? And so that's kind of what it was. It was not friendly. And so with this, you can now say context remember, you can pass in the key, then you can pass in a closure, which will either return the value of that key or we'll set it using the result of that closure. So it's really much nicer. Thanks, Ben, for writing that one up. Balboa Codes contribute doesn't start with and doesn't end with string methods to the stringable classes, which are the opposite, of course, of starts with and ends with. You can compare the value against another string or an array of strings. It does exactly what it says. Doesn't start with, doesn't end with. Nice and simple there. Adding the fail when method to the throttles exception queue middleware. Michael Dizaja. Oh boy.
Michael Japaridze.
Oh man, Japaridze. Did you paste that into like some sort of? Nope. That's a really good one. That's a really good one. Congratulations. Contributed a fail when method to the throttles exception middleware. So currently this middleware only allows for deleting the job when a specific exception is thrown. There are occasions where you would want to mark the job as failed instead. For instance, in the context of a job chain, it may be desirable to fail a job when an exception is thrown so that the chain stops executing rather than deleting the job from the chain there. So an example is given. You have this middleware, throttle the exceptions, delete when, fail when, and so you can now do either one of those. So that's really nice. Pull request 56180 for details if you need. Additionally, the queue documentation also provides more information on using that throttles exception middleware, which is really handy for these jobs. Punyapal Shah contributed a new fake method to the queue facade that allows the same pattern used by the event facade. So before you'd have to queue fake, and then afterward you'd have to do some manual cleanup that was required. Now you can do queue fake for, and then you can pass in a closure there. The original queue is automatically restored once that's done. So it only fakes for that particular instance, and then allows you to do selective job faking there. It also allows your critical jobs to be queued normally while you're faking the others. So really nice addition there. Adding JSON serializable interface to the URI class. Diva Morales added the JSON serializable interface to the URI class to make sure that it's properly converted to JSON when you are serializing that. We've got the Fluent class being made iterable now. So this is introducing that iterable contract to the Fluent class, which addresses a small paper cut when using Fluent with loops. So right now you need to call toArray in order to iterate over that. Now the settings property is iterable in Laravel 12.20, so you don't have to do that toArray before iterating over that anymore. The collection method was added to the config repository. So Kennedy Tedesco contributed a collection method to return a collection instance from the config repository. So now you can say config dodop collection, and then pass in the period separated, or the this is what's used inside of Laravel when you're needing to sort of dig
the
into
notation.
Dot notation. Thank you. That's what I was searching for. Previously, you would have to collect the config array. Now you can just do config collection, and it will grab out a collection for you.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. This is nice.
That's super nice.
These paper cuts, these little things that when you see it, when someone submits the pull request and adds it to the framework, you go, yeah, of course. How have I been living without this? Because the amount of times that I've done collect config, in my time, it's just if you ever repeat these things, just submit a pull request.
Well, it is great too, because if you're using configs in any sort of way that's more than just pulling a single value from the config, there's many, many, many times where you're going to need to pull it into some sort of collection so you can iterate over and work with those values, or pull a specific piece out by name, or do some sort of operations on them rather than just referencing them as static values. So had to do this a couple of times myself, so this is really nice. Adding closure support to the collection pluck method. Ralph J. Smith contributed an update to the pluck method that allows customizations to the keys and the values that are being returned from that pluck. Does just like what it sounds like. You get that pluck passing a closure, then you can return whatever you like from that. So there you have that. Context blade directive. Martin Bean contributed the context blade directive to determine if a context value exists inside of a blade file, of course. So context canonical if it is. So it's like a conditional instead of if context has the word canonical, then do this. Nope, no longer needed. You just specify it at context in your blade file. And if the key that you pass in there exists, the following portion will then render. Really nice there. Pull request 56146. Of course, you can see all of the changes and fixes inside of the release notes for 12.19 and 12.20 on GitHub. There you have it.
Just on that context one, does that also then inject a value? It does. Very cool. So not only does it provide you that conditional check, it will provide the value of that context parameter in the value variable. So dollar value will be whatever is the context get of that key. So that is smart thinking, Martin. Like that one.
Very nice.
On to the news. JetBrains PHPverse 2025 happened a few weeks ago to celebrate the 30th anniversary or the 30th birthday of PHP, which brought together core contributors, framework authors, and passionate community members for a one-day event packed with insightful talks. From long-time maintainers to new faces in internals, the event served as both a reflection on PHP's evolution and a glimpse at what's coming next. It was streamed online and peaked at 4,000 simultaneous watchers live from all over the world. And now all the talks have been published, so it's the perfect time to revisit the key moments and catch up with any of the talks that you might have missed. So there were talks about Franken PHP, which is now a official part of the PHP project. It is used as like a driver, I think is the terminology for something like Laravel Octane. Talked about 20 years of Symfony, MCP in PHP, how AI is changing the tech industry. There was a Q&A with our very own Taylor Otwell, the future of PHP education, growing PHP for the future, and so on. So we'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes. There's also some cool PHPverse swag. No event, of course, is complete without awesome swag, and the JetBrains team went above and beyond. Each attendee received a bag filled with PHP Storm shirts and hoodies, a mousepad, an elephant, a PHP elephant Lego, and more. Some of the items are available on the swag store. I had a look earlier. There is t-shirts, there is a hoodie, and there are some pins and stickers as well. So check that out if you want to get involved in any of that stuff. So links to all of that in the show notes.
Love the Lego PHP elephant. Pretty exclusive stuff there. I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few people scrambling to get their hands on that one. Really, really cool stuff. Thanks so much, JetBrains, for putting that together. Great work on that. All right, Laravel in 2025. So as crazy as it sounds, July 2nd was the midpoint of this year, which means we're more than halfway through the year. Yikes. So the team here at Laravel News thought it would be nice to recap some of the most memorable moments so far at Laravel News. So the following posts that we're going to talk about are a mix of some of our most popular posts, community milestones, as well as products and events that have happened. So let's start with Laravel 12. We used to have Laracon Online, which is where we would do some of these bigger announcements, but in some of these, now that we don't have Laracon Online, are just taking place on Blue Sky and on X, right? So Laravel 12 was released on February 2024 of this year. So, sorry, I said 2024. February 24th of 2025. My apologies. There was also the new starter kits that were launched with that, with the first party starter kits. The Laravel installer also now supports these custom starter kits, which is really neat. If you have not yet seen that or read about that, we have that in a blog post. You should check this one out. The custom starter kits are really, really powerful. It used to be a lot more difficult to do this, but now you can install Laravel using these custom starter kits. It's a great way to get apps up and running really quickly using your custom configuration. Laravel 12 was also insanely easy to upgrade compared to previous versions of Laravel. So used to be that it was, quite a few steps you'd have to take between versions. Laravel 12 was by far the easiest. Now, I still happened to use Laravel Shift for all the ones that we moved from 11 to 12. There's a couple little pieces and parts that are really nice to just have Laravel Shift take care of for you. But by and large, it was basically a composer.json update, and that was about it. It was really, really good. It also leverages Inertia 2.0 for the Vue and React starter kits. If you did have Nova running, you were going to have to, if it was on an older version, you were going to have to upgrade that as well. So again, that is one other thing to be aware of when you're shifting. The Laravel Shift will help take care of for you as well. But great upgrade there. The path from 11 to 12 was amazing. So great job to the Laravel team on that front. Laravel Cloud was also released in February along with the Laravel 12 release. This is, of course, a fully managed infrastructure platform and the fastest way to deploy and scale your Laravel applications. Lots of beta testers helped to contribute to making this what it is today. And of course, the team has done an amazing job on making the UI feel absolutely amazingly buttery smooth. I literally can't think of a better way to describe it. It just feels so good to use. And so great job to the team on that one. No, lots and lots of time was poured into making that what it is today. And if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. Native PHP Mobile version 1 launched on May 2nd, which brings your Laravel app to the iOS and Android device stores. There's been, lots of years that we've been developing web applications that we can launch onto the web using Laravel. Amazing. But you can now use that same language and that same set of things that you've learned to build apps that you can bring to the App Store and to the Google Play Store with native PHP for mobile v1. So huge release on that front, and really excited to see what people are building with this new library. Okay, the big one here, Laravel Nightwatch, was also released. So I, in particular, was more excited about Nightwatch than I was about Claude. I've got a lot of stuff that I already have running inside of Forge that I've been really happy with and have not needed necessarily to switch to Claude, but Nightwatch is one of those things that I could add to every single one of my projects. So it's a first-party product with deep monitoring and insights for all of your Laravel applications, no matter where you deploy them. And you can get started by checking out nightwatch.laravel.com. Really, really cool. Tailwind version 4 was released. Of course, the community has been largely behind Tailwind for a long time. Adam Wathan, longtime Laravel community member who created Tailwind, of course. And so on January 22nd, Tailwind version 4 was released with a brand new high-performance engine, CSS first configuration, simplified installation, and more, which we have a release post that you can read about there in the blog post here. Of course, there's plenty more to come this year. We've got Laracon US right around the corner from July 29th to 30th. Hopefully, we'll see you there. Expected to announce some new updates to Laravel Forge, which I'm really excited about. Livewire 4 was also mentioned to be released hopefully at Laracon US 2025 live from the stage. We've got Laravel Live Denmark coming up in August. We've got Laracon AU, of course, November 13th to the 14th. An opportunity to learn and share and connect with like-minded people. Level up your skills, knowledge, and Laravel applications. You can still grab tickets for that. And then, of course, November 20th of 2025 is when PHP 8.5 launches. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the show as well. That is our first half of the year. Looking forward to the rest of the year. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, a lot of big stuff happened in the front half of this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Laravel team in particular has been cooking up in that time. On top of, obviously, they're much bigger now, so they have the capacity to do a lot more things. And as you say, Nightwatch and Cloud launching in the first half of this year, not small things by any stretch. So to have the capacity to do that, to launch that, to maintain that, and to look to the future as well. Taylor's got a 2-hour keynote this year on the first day. So
yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Looking forward to that. On that, the schedule for Laracon US is up now as well. So if you hadn't seen that, if you didn't see the email, or if you haven't seen online, check that out. There's a lot of cool stuff, interesting talks on the horizon for that. Another one that I really enjoyed and immediately upgraded was the ability to run Laravel Pint faster in parallel mode. So it was recently updated with a new -- parallel flag that makes Pint run 40 times faster and will fully leverage the parallel capabilities of PHP CS Fixer. You can use it using vendor bin Pint -- parallel. The flag is marked as experimental and is potentially unstable, but to access this flag, all you need to do is update to the latest version of Laravel Pint, at least version 1.23.0. Along with the parallel flag, this also allows extending a Pint configuration from another file. This is useful if you have an organization Pint config you share across projects, however want to tweak a few settings on a per project basis. Big fan that being able to run and leverage multiple processes, especially in things like CI, to try and get those processes to run quicker. You want to get feedback in those cycles as quick as possible. So shout out to Nuno and the Pint team for that one.
Awesome. Speaking of native PHP, which we just mentioned about the first half of 2025, since they launched native PHP for mobile in May, they've been building fast and quiet, running and refining the core, creating better tooling, expanding what was possible with it. So version 1.1 drops July 14th, which is today, the date of this recording. And it isn't just like a collection of fixes. It's really a foundation upgrade to make these apps easier to build, faster to ship, and ready for real production work. So let's talk about a couple of the things that have been brought to 1.1. First is modular native APIs. Here's what we mean by that. Previous to this, everything was sort of stuffed under this system class. We'd system, double parens, and then you could get to all these native APIs like biometrics or camera, dialogues, geolocations, things like that. No longer do you have to do that. They all have their own dedicated facades. So you have biometrics under its own namespace, camera, dialogue, geolocation, haptics, push notifications, secure storage, and then system. So each one is designed by itself to be predictable, documented, and then easy to expand. So this sets the tone for all future native features, pulling them into their own facades so they can be really focused and testable rather than having them all crammed under one spot. There also are a couple new features: secure storage, geolocation, and gallery picker. So these are new native capabilities that you have access to. Secure storage allows you to store tokens, secrets, and credentials using that device's native keychain or key store, which is incredibly powerful. Of course, geolocation is a big one if you ever need accurate location data. So you can now ask for that in the permission support. It's cross-platform supported, which is excellent. And then gallery picker is when you allow users to select media that they want your app to be able to access. If you've ever used an application with modern privacy focus, you know that it needs to gain permission to not, it used to be, do you give us access to all your photos? And you just say yes or no. And now you can be more selective in which things you want to share. This gallery picker is essentially that. So they're now fully integrated into Laravel, no plugins, no separate workflows, just these really powerful APIs that you already understand. env handling was also something that was annoying. Previously in Android, if you ever changed the env values, you had to run PHP artisan native install force. This was a destructive step, so it wiped your entire project and required you to rerun that native run. You don't have to do that anymore. They've now moved all that logic into native run, so when you update that env, it changes the whole thing without deleting anything. So fewer surprises, no wasted time. Same as what it was in iOS. That's now the same in Android now. Okay. A couple of things that sound less exciting, but they're actually allowing you to do some really cool stuff. Full CLI flag support. So version 1.1 introduces this ability to allow you to pass those flags to that native run function, unlocking true automation. What do we mean by that? You can now run these native PHP actions these native PHP's functions in GitHub Actions in your deploy scripts or in your staging pipelines so that you don't have to have prompts or manual steps built in there. You just pass the flags and it sort of does it silently for you. Really, really nice. Also, a undersold feature here, smaller, faster binaries. So in Android, they went into their PHP build and they cut it in half, essentially, from 16 megs down to 8 megs. In Android with ICU, from 44 megs down to 35 megs. And in iOS, they cut it in half as well, 55 megabytes down to 22 megabytes. So faster downloads, lighter binaries, lighter bundles, and better performance. So really, really good stuff there. There are a couple other items, including rewritten documentation, real testing infrastructure with unit tests and end-to-end tests. There is a kitchen sink app that's now live on the Play Store, so you can take a look at some of these features that we just talked about: secure storage, geolocation, gallery picker, that you could download and kind of check that out on your device to see how that feels, and then you can take a look at the merch store that they've also launched, which is shop.nativephp.com. Whew, bunch of stuff there, all available to you as of the time of this recording. If you're using that, you should definitely upgrade. It's a good one. Thanks so much to Shane Rosenthal and the team over there for writing this one up.
Next up, the Laravel Claude code setup repo is a one-command setup for AI-powered Laravel development with Claude Code and MCP servers. It will help you to automatically configure all MCP servers for the ultimate AI-powered Laravel development experience with Figma integration. The Figma integration features seems like they could be very powerful, helping you automatically create views, extract a design system, build components, and more. Main features include global MCP servers that are shared across all of your projects, GitHub integration that accesses all your repositories to manage PRs with automatic token configuration, a memory system to remember decisions across projects, Context 7, which is the latest Laravel, which provides the latest Laravel and PHP documentation access. There is web fetch for accessing external APIs and resources, Figma integration to provide design to code workflows with automatic design token extraction, providing colors, typography, and spacing for Tailwind CSS, and Laravel debug bar providing real-time debugging if installed, and more. It's pretty simple to get up and running. There is a curl command that you can run through Bash, and then get everything up and running. You can get started with the package by reading the README and the docs folder, which we'll have links to for you in the show notes.
Well, hey, folks, we talked about a little bit earlier that PHP 8.5 is getting released in November 20th of this year. So the next couple items that we have here are all related to PHP 8.5. So this first one is written up by Paul Redmond, everyone's favorite human. Really good. And he talks about, he goes into quite a bit of depth on this. I'm just going to skim the surface on this one. And if you want to read the additional details of it, please feel free to go and read it. But the headline is this: array first and array last functions are being made a reality inside of PHP 8.5. So this has had userland implementations and polyfills by Symfony, by Laravel, by other things throughout, forever, right? These complement some things that were already pulled in PHP 7.3, which were array key first and array key last. But again, without going into too much depth as far as how it works and how this polyfill works, just know that array first and array last will now be available to you natively inside of PHP 8.5 in November.
Perfect.
There we go.
The pipe operator is also coming to PHP 8.5 when it will be released on November 20th. The operator is an exciting prospect for PHP developers wanting to chain multiple callables together, passing a value through them from left to right in a native way. The pipe operator accepts a single parameter callable on the right and passes the left side value to it, evaluating to the callable's result. Now, if that doesn't make much sense to you, anytime you have used Laravel's collections and chained on a filter and then a map and then a first or whatever, this is a similar concept but supported natively within PHP. So you can get a long way to do things like running a string through HTML entities and then string split and then mapping to uppercase things and then filter the values, all using native PHP functions. The performance benefits would be the main thing to do this, having this functionality native. I wonder if any of the Laravel collection stuff can be adapted to maybe leverage this functionality under the hood / behind the scenes. But it does mean that there will be situations where you can sort of map and filter and reduce using the native pipe functionality in situations where you don't necessarily have to reach for the collection functionality. So definitely check that out. It will be released as part of PHP 8.5 in November.
That is incredible. Honestly, I just, it feels like these things used to they only existed in some parallel universe where PHP was willing to accept these sorts of things. And I feel like in the last couple releases, like the dam has broken and all of these amazing new features are flooding in. And it just feels like it is such a wonderful time to be a PHP developer, doesn't it? I mean, there's just so many cool features that we get. And not only that, but we have the community keeping us updated, because that was some of the other parts of it too, is I feel like it used to be that PHP releases would kind of come and go, and nobody was really any the wiser as far as what the new features were. Maybe there was some break fix stuff in there, but there was none of these new sort of banner features that were coming out that people wanted to upgrade to get. And this is one of those big ones, the pipe operator. That's so cool. Now, the syntax is really interesting. I think it looks good. It's just going to be weird to get used to. It's sort of, you know what I mean? I'll have to kind of go back and be like,
uncharacteristic for PHP.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is that operator again? Pipe arrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, that's just, it's interesting. I think it's a good one, right? It's,
I think it's borrowed from like .NET or something like that.
Okay.
Or C#. So there's an established, and a lot of the stuff that PHP has been adding in recent times does have history in other languages, and so it's easier to kind of have something familiar for people that move between languages, perhaps, when you look at what's already out there before implementing. I think the big thing as well, not so much, not wanting to do things or not bringing things in because Symfony had it or because Laravel had it or whatever else. I think the main reason is because the PHP Foundation exists now, that there is people that are actually paid to develop and support PHP, the language, and they are doing this in a full-time capacity, that there is now active community support to, enable people to work on this, not just in their free time, not, whenever they're able to, but to do it in a full-time capacity. And that, I think, has, moved a lot forward in terms of the ability for PHP to manage releases, to communicate releases, to do more exciting things more often and more regularly than what we had before. So shout out to everyone that is involved in that.
Absolutely. Well, along with all of this, you might be asking yourself too, like, how can I get started just testing out PHP 8.5? What's the easiest way for me to do that? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit here, but we're also going to talk about another feature that 8.5 introduces, which is a diff option for the PHP INI flag. So PHP-INI previously would show you, hey, here are the values that are loaded, as well as maybe showing you here's the path that you're loading it from. But this, there's a couple cool new things here that are going to be available to us starting in 8.5. So you can use this diff to show you the INI values that are different from the built-in default values. So if you do PHP-INI equals diff, it says, here are all the loaded values that were made to be different based on INI files that you were loading in. And sometimes that's not always easy to identify either. Where am I loading these INI files from? Am I loading multiple INI files? And so Paul Redmond talks about how you can go through and get a little taste of this, as well as mess around a bit with being able to see not only what ones are different, but where am I loading them in from? And so he talks about specifically here using Docker. Now, Docker is one of those things, some people don't really like to get involved with it, me being one of those, raise your hand. But he talks about how you can use Docker in order to be able to set up a new PHP 8.5 demo. And then he shows, here's how we can see what the INI values are before. And then here's how we can see what it looks like after we load these INIs. And then we can also see here are any loaded configuration files, which is going to point you to all the INIs that got loaded in order to produce that difference between what the default values are and what your new values are. So if this is something you'd like to play with before 8.5 is released, this is a great tutorial to go through. It's not a long one. We're talking about 10-minute read here, right? From actually getting it started reading it to actually getting through the end of it with a Docker 8.5 install. So should be a good one. If that's something you'd like to play with, definitely check that one out.
The last PHP 8.5 feature we have to talk about today is fatal error backtraces. In PHP 8.5, a new fatal error backtraces setting can control whether a backtrace is shown for fatal errors. Fatal errors without backtraces in today's stable PHP versions, for example 8.4, might include parse errors for syntax errors, duplicate functions or classes, infinite loops, and max execution time, and so on. So if you run code in PHP 8.4, you'll get, if you try to declare a class multiple times, for example, you'll get a fatal error that says cannot declare class B because the name is already in use. And it will just tell you where that error happened. Starting in PHP 8.5, you'll get more helpful information that led to the fatal error. Clearly, this is a contrived example, but it will tell you where the duplication happened. It'll give you, it'll tell you this was previously declared somewhere else, rather than just saying that it has already been declared. So the ini setting default value is to show fatal error backtraces, meaning it is enabled by default. But if for some reason you want to turn it off, you can set that setting to 0 and you'll get back the current state of affairs. We'll have links to this and all of the PHP 8.5 updates in the show notes for you.
Okay, moving on to packages. So this first one, I was confused when I read it for the first time because it says Volt in the title. Laravel performance testing with Volt test PHP. Now, if you were naive like me and you think, oh, Laravel Volt, which was introduced at, I think, like Laracon 2023 US, I think is where it was at. Taylor talked about this, right? Which is like these like Livewire components and like single file component things. Not what we're talking about. No need to really continue down that path. This is talking about Volt Test PHP, which, if I'm reading its own title of what it claims to do, it empowers developers to write and execute performance, load, and stress tests for their applications directly inside of PHP. So what the Laravel performance testing package does is this allows you to use the Volt Test PHP SDK to create these load tests for your Laravel applications, which some of the niceties that it sort of folds in here is things like route discovery, CSRF handling, reporting, and more. So using the Laravel package that we're talking about here, you can quickly get up to speed using that Volt test, generating test files easily, and starting to stress test your Laravel app if that is in fact something you need to do. The API looks really nice. You basically set up a scenario and you set up different steps that you'd like to test, and then you can build it all out just very in a fluent interface, very similar to how you'd build out what you would do when inside of a PHP unit sort of request lifecycle. Here are the things I want you to do, and then you can go through, filter it out only to particular tests that you want to run, and then do your stress test there with PHP Artisan Volt Test and run that there. So it's easily configurable, automatic route discovery, comprehensive reporting, URL load testing. It comes with Artisan commands, configurable through flexible config options. And then it also has things like CSV data sources, which you might think is like, what would I need to do that for? Well, if you're wanting to load a bunch of different data into these stress tests, it's going to require a large amount of it to kind of run through for realistic performance testing. And so a lot of times you're going to load that in through some sort of CSV data source. It supports that. So you can check this one out in the show notes.
Intelligent parsing and formatting of names in PHP apps. If you have ever done anything that deals with customer, like a CRM type thing, or anywhere where you're displaying names of people where it can be arbitrarily entered into forms, name of person is a PHP package inspired by Basecamp's name of person Ruby gem, which gives you intelligent parsing and multiple formatting options. If you handle person names in your PHP applications with elegant formatting options. Transform names between multiple presentation formats. The package provides a clean, type-safe way to parse, store, manipulate, and display person names consistently across your application. So you can directly instantiate a person name with a first and last name as separate parameters, or you can use static constructors for, person name from full, and then you can, from the parsed object, return the first and the last name. It handles single names as well. So if you had, say, Prince, you would get null back for the last name. The package also has Laravel support for cast that you can use with your models, and the cast supports string-based cast configurations as well as a fluent method and JSON serialization. Multiple format options are available. There are 9 different ways to display names. There is full, familiar, abbreviated, initials, sorted, possessive, and mentionable. There is smart parsing to intelligently handle full name strings and edge cases. There is full international name support with proper multi-byte handling. Core functionality means it works in any PHP project, and a specific Laravel integration provides native eloquent casting for seamless database integration. So we talked about, familiar and initials and possessive formatting options. So if you had Eric L. Barnes, as he likes to place his name around the internet, if you said that was his name, then familiar would be Eric B. With a initial for the surname. Initials, you could say name initials to get ELB to get the initials of all of the names. Possessive for the first name, so Eric's, Eric apostrophe S, and so on and so forth. This is useful, if you're sending emails to people, you might want to address them in with a possessive. You might want to generate avatars if they haven't uploaded an image with the initials for their name, and so on and so forth. So definitely check this one out. Something that we do in a number of different places I'm sure there are many of you listening who have implemented these in various different ways. I know a favorite of mine to get the first and last name is to do like string of before space, and that's the first name, and string of after, that space means it's the last name. And you can get caught out in places if people have put in like a middle name or things like that as well. But a tested package that's built on top of or off the work of Basecamp's RubyGem means that it's comprehensive. It's tested over a long period of time. So definitely check that one out.
Awesome. Last package before we get to the tutorials here. Laravel AI Chat Starter Kit, created by Pushpak Chahajed, is a modern starter kit that features real-time streaming responses using Prism, Inertia, Vue, and Tailwind CSS. Okay, don't sleep on this thing. Let me kind of put this down for you here. If you are wanting to interact with an AI model and you also are responsible for providing the interface that allows you to interact with that model as well as stream back the responses, this is a starter kit for Laravel that gives you everything you need to get up and running with that from zero really quickly. As I said, it's a starter kit. So as of Laravel 12, we now have these starter kits that you can ship things with. So to get started with this, all you do is Laravel new, and then you use Pushpak 1300/AI chat. That's it. And it will give you all of this ready to go. Real-time AI responses, which are streamed as they're generated. Reasoning support. So it has support for AI models with reasoning capabilities. It allows for multiple AI providers. Thank you, Prism, AI, OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, Ollama, Grok, etc. All those things. It has a built-in authentication system for user authentication and management. It has a light and a dark mode. It has custom theming with ShadCN. So if you've not used ShadCN before, this is something that's usually, it was kind of created originally for React, but it's been ported over to Vue. So now you can do easy theme customization with just simple CSS variables. Really nice there. And then also allows you to do chat sharing, which is allowing you to share conversations with other users. This is something that ChatGPT has done in the not too distant past, which has been really helpful for myself specifically. I'll write something up, want to share it with my wife. I either have to copy and paste this whole conversation, or I can say, just share this over to this person, and it kind of gives them the entire context. So a really, really comprehensive starter kit here, as well as shipping with an enum that specifies the model names that you'd like to use. So, you've got GPT-4o mini and GPT-4.1 nano and O4 mini. And if you didn't know the names of these or how they're specifically, it's sort of like when you're doing regions for Amazon. It's like, was it US East 1 or East 2, or which one was it? This just kind of simplifies that for you by providing an enum that has all those values ready for you to go to plug in. So if this is something you've needed to do, even if you just wanted to play around with Prism, this is a great spot for you to just grab this starter kit, spin it up, and give it a try. So really, really cool here. Thanks to Pushpak and Chahajed for creating that. Very nice.
Nice. Several tutorials this week, all of them from our favorite Harris Raftopoulos, all of them framework reminders if I have classified them correctly. I'm going to run through them all and leave them to you, dear listener, to go forward and read them. First up, simplifying stream handling with Laravel's resource method. We've got dependency injection in Laravel closure commands. Laravel's in array keys rule, allowing you to validate partial array keys. Content negotiation with Laravel's prefers method. There is Laravel request content type inspection methods, as well as blade authorization directives for view security, enhancing JSON responses with Laravel's model appends property, enhanced enum processing with Laravel's default parameter support, custom object casting in Laravel models, and Laravel's rule contains method for fluent array validation. All of these things that we have spoken about at various points in time on Laravel News, and Harris, as always, has helpfully gone through and just expanded on the high-level stuff that we talk about on the show to give you more context around how you might use some of this functionality in your projects.
Yep, they are actually so well written. And he does a really good job breaking down the high-level things that we're talking about. When we're talking about release things, a lot of times it's just the bullet point version. Here's the feature, top level, and maybe you don't have as much of a grasp on how exactly do I use this inside my application, or what are some examples of places where I might use this. He takes all those and expands them to a full tutorial and provides details on all of that. Really well written, really easy to follow, and most of them you could read through and understand within, I'm talking 5 minutes, right? You should definitely go through these, read these on a lunch break. It's going to be really helpful. And there's so much stuff that's going into the framework these days. It's easy to lose that there's some of these amazing things that you have never even heard of, right? Even if you read through the documentation, you might not know that these things exist. So definitely check these tutorials out. They're super valuable and are going to help you level up to the next level. And also, speaking of, if you're interested in leveling up to the next level and you are over on the side of the world where Australia is near you, you should definitely be grabbing your tickets to Laracon AU. Michael, give us some dates that we should be looking at.
Yeah, November 13th and 14th in Brisbane this year. We have sold over half of our early bird allocation as well, and that will run until the 7th of August unless sold out earlier. So if you've missed the boat on Laracon US, then Laracon AU is happy for you to join us. If you go to Laracon US and you think you want some more Laracon in your life, there will still be about a week to grab your early bird tickets after that happens. So I'd love to see you there. And we're in the thick of announcing speakers at the moment as well. So looking forward to getting all those. There's one less secret I need to keep from the community. So definitely enjoying this part of the preparation process for sure.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, Michael and myself will also be at Laracon US this year, which is coming up right around the corner. I think both of us will be there on the,
28th.
28th. Yes, we'll both be on the 28th. I'll be there through the 31st. Please say hello. We would love to see you and hear from you. It's always great to hear from people who are able to listen to the show, and very much looking forward to catching up with all you lovely folks there. This has been episode 241. You can find show notes for it at podcast.laravel-news.com/241. Please rate us up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be amazing if you enjoyed the show. And of course, any comments or questions you might have, hit us up on Blue Sky or on X at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett, or at Laravel News. Folks, until next time, it's been a fun one. We will see ya.
Bye.